Well, I did want to know how your boat trip went the other day.
It was fantastic on Lake Minnetonka,
Hmm.
which the more discerning listener will remember from, of course, Prince's world, one who purifies his soul in the waters of Lake Minnetonka. Um, Beautiful place just west of Minneapolis. They have boats for rent, and more specifically, electric boats, where they say if you can drive a golf cart, you can handle this boat. I mean, it's the easiest thing ever.
And weather-wise?
Weather, perfect day. It was Monday, very few boats on the lake. My wife and I were just out for a couple hours on essentially a floating golf cart with a lot more leg room. And it was awesome. And we just tooled around, kept it between the buoys, didn't get too close to the shore, never a problem. Really, I mean, shockingly life altering. Just to get on, you forget if you haven't been on the water in a while. It's like, yeah, there's a reason people live their lives going out on a boat as often as possible. Really nice.
I am 100% with you on that. I
Yeah.
don't think we have a rental program like that out here, or I would be at Berryessa probably every other weekend with a punch card going, me again.
Yeah, this is like it was funny because it's totally silent because it's electric, and it's like a miniature, like a pontoon, like the way it kind of looks. Like you can have up to 12 people on it. It's got a lot of room.
Oh, wow.
And but it just goes, 7 or 8 miles an hour. You're putzing along at full speed, and the people on like the cool boats, they all drive by and they all look like, what the hell is that? And then I'm of course assuming they're judging me for not being a proper boatsman, with as
Yeah, but
many
you're the party
horsepower.
boat.
Yeah, no, it's just cool. Just put on some music and just chill. It was awesome.
Absolutely. Plus, you're not the gas engine polluting the lake, right?
See, exactly. Then I not only do I ride my low boat, I sit on my high horse while doing it.
Well, obviously, we have to talk about Jane's Addiction because, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I look at that stuff. Having been in a band for years, that's never my first reaction. I see that stuff just like anybody does, which is you see it, you're like, oh my God, dude, get a hold of yourself. And you just think, oh, band, funny drama. And then within a minute, though, I'm like, well, this is awful. It's sad to see. And I've been in a band that was, everyone's doing the best they can, and everybody has very different understanding of what that means and very different. Not everyone has the same size mug, what they can handle and what they can appropriately process in real time. Is that a nice way to say it? So whatever's going on between those guys,
I think that's fisticuffs is what you were looking for.
Yeah, that's it. Well, we certainly learned Perry Farrell doesn't know how to throw a punch, which is probably a good thing.
Bad, right?
But it's tough when I saw Dave Navarro's statement today, which is like, he's like saying, what am I doing? It's time to, it's better to let go of something that's not working than to keep trying to fix it. I can relate to that with every fiber of my being. So when I read that today, I was like, oh yeah, okay. It's a punchline, and this stuff, literally and figuratively, it can be a punchline for anybody on the outside, but on the inside, that's people's lives and that's people's passions, most importantly. And when you do something with all your heart and soul in your 20s, and then you find yourself still able to do it in your 50s or your 60s, but then it's harder than ever, and you see that, it's just sad. It's like, oh, I thought this was going to be a chance to rekindle and renew and refresh, and it's just the same old nonsense. And the truth is, at a certain age, I mean, everybody crosses that line where you are like, this was worth it at 24. At 60, not even close.
And I did not realize that Perry Farrell was in his 60s. I mean, wow, he was born in 1959.
Mm-hmm.
So he's definitely too old to be trying to pull that.
Yeah. Oh, I think so. And who knows what's going on. We don't know what's going on in the people right next door to us on a day-to-day basis. Unless you sit down and really hash it out, we never know what someone else is walking around on their shoulders. So it's just when you see it, the first reaction is always to laugh and kind of make fun of it. I mean, I'm just looking on Twitter and everyone's just ripping away on them.
They do have a big song where their like number one hit has a line that, she takes a swing and she can't hit.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
I mean, it did kind of like meme itself.
Well, and I mean, and Dave Grohl, I've got another confession to make meme, that was there in 2 seconds. And so I totally get that. But at the same time, I mean, rock and roll stories are funny until they're not.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with And I don't know what's going on, but a lot of the funniest stories are, they're young stories of what turns out to be horribly addictive behavior and results and ramifications. And so at some point it just stops being all that funny. And I think that's where Jane's Addiction found themselves for sure. I mean, I didn't really know anything about this tour. I wasn't aware they were back. I don't know how long they've been reunited. I was completely in the dark about it until this happened. And so I don't know what's been going on any level with those guys, but ultimately it just, the end of it, it's like, you guys should probably stop. That's probably the best decision. You guys should probably all go your own ways and get whatever it is that's going to help you get to the next place and in as healthy a place as you can find.
Yeah, and they're playing houses, smaller houses. I mean, they were booked at the Masonic here, and tickets were like $200 each.
Oof.
Yeah, and I mean, there's probably a lot of people out there right now that are kind of glad that this happened because they didn't want to have these $200 and $300 tickets only to see the show just melt down like that.
Yeah.
Harry's
Well, yeah, if you don't know if you can get through a gig, then by God, the last place you need to be is on the road.
Yeah. And it's weird because, I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theory buff, and they canceled or postponed. They postponed the tour initially and said they were going to work on new music for a while first and then come out and do the tour. And that's what they did. But, my radar immediately was like, somebody needs rehab. And they're postponing to get to that point. And then as soon as I saw everybody saying, well, Perry's been drinking red wine out of the bottle on stage, again, my radar just went off of like, that's what Al Jorgensen used to do when he was on junk.
Yeah.
He would drink red wine out of the bottle either to like take the edge off the junk or take the edge off the speed he was using to come up from the junk. And it was just all bad. Now, this is me making that all up.
Yeah.
But
well, the best case scenario is the best case scenario is he's chugging red wine from a bottle. That's not a great place to be on stage. So if it's to counteract something else, that's even worse. But if that's what's going on, and this, sometimes things really just are as simple as they look. A bunch of guys don't get along, and one of them's drinking too much. I can totally see that being all you need to know.
Well, and the guy who's the freshest out of rehab is Dave Navarro, and the guy who's famously not out of rehab is Perry, and that's kind of one went to the other, and that's where the fight started. So,
yeah,
the whole thing just saddens me because this is Jane's Addiction's toured without Eric Avery, and whenever they do, that's when I've noticed that Perry kind of goes off on tangents and doesn't really, it's just not the best performance. And when Eric's there, he's always seems to be the guy who keeps things in line. And then at that show, if you watch to the end of the video, Eric comes in and just punches Perry in the gut a few times. And I'm like, is that how he's always been keeping Jane's Addiction in line when he's on the tour?
It could certainly be, I mean, bands that start together, 99% of bands replace members along the way, and 99% of bands that go back and get those guys back go, oh duh, this is the band again. And so I'm not surprised with when and it's not a conscious thing. It's just, that's the reality of bands, which is initial chemistry, the chemistry that got you guys out of your hometown, that got you guys out of your local scene and into the world. That chemistry is the strongest thing you have, but it's really hard for a lot of bands to recognize that.
Is it kind of a thing where it's no longer you against the world, it becomes you against each other? If
you let it, it's real easy to be. And in a band like that, where you have, I think it's harder for bands when you have a frontman who's not also playing music. He's just doing the thing, so all eyes are on him. When your frontman is also playing guitar, it's a little easier for him to realize, like, I can't do this without these other guys. Whereas, any frontman has moments where they're like, do I really need these guys behind me? Because all I see is 5,000 sets of eyes on me all night long. And then and whether that's true or not, that's what they see. And that's what they have to see in order to maintain the ego and confidence required to put on a great show. It's all a vicious cycle in every way you look at it. So I think, but for a lot of bands, it's, once everybody gets successful, it's real easy when you all have one goal and it's a common goal. But then when you accomplish that goal, that's when you figure out what everyone else really thinks. And that really comes down to, it's like ethics and morals and values, which is something no young rocker wants to talk about. But once you've achieved all your goals, that's the only thing that's going to keep you together is common values. And if you don't have common values, you're just fighting, you're spitting into the wind for as long as you stay together.
Ouch. You know who got who also had almost the exact same thing happen, but it kind of got overshadowed because of the Jane's drama, is REO Speedwagon broke up.
Now that's the single craziest breakup story I can remember hearing ever. I mean, the just the Cliff Note version. So the bass player gets surgery. He's unable to perform. He says, "I'm ready to perform," and the band says, "No, you're not." And then they go back and forth, and they have a big argument about it for several months, and then they realize, okay, he will be able to come back and finish the tour. But in the interim, the arguments we just had are so damaging that we can't put it back together. So we're going to pull the plug at the end of the year. That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Like we're just so I misunderstood then, because I got the impression, and admittedly, I'm not a huge REO Speedwagon fan. I mean, they're one of my favorite skate rink song bands, but I never really got into them. So I didn't know who everybody was. And, you know, you can't tell the players without a program. So I was trying to figure out, and it sounded to me like they had replaced him for a little while.
They did. Yeah, they had a fill in because he had back surgery. When he said he was ready to come back, the band put out a statement a few months ago saying he's not ready to, we don't feel he's healthy enough to perform at the level our fans have come to expect, which is, and I'm sorry, but what does the bassist of REO Speedwagon actually need to do?
Yeah.
Does he have a Tommy Lee harness? Is he doing loop-de-loops while playing? I don't think so. This is a guy that's been in the band for 50 years, by the way.
Yeah.
So that whole part, that is just kind of funny to me. And I'm thinking, well, what he wasn't able to stand up straight? Who cares? Let him sit. It's you guys are all in your 70s.
Nobody's even looking at him, are they? They're looking at the singer.
I mean, I rarely use the Black Crowes as an example of this is what you should do. But I will say we were on tour in 2007, I think, and our guitar player broke his leg. And so he went on stage and sat in a chair with his leg in a cast, and we still played every night. We're not going to stop playing.
Axl Rose had the throne.
Yeah, exactly.
Dave Grohl, because Dave Grohl had to do a whole tour.
Well, and yeah, to your point, those are the main performers.
Yeah.
The Black Crowes, he's just the guy playing guitar. REO Speedwagon, it's the guy playing bass, for God's sakes.
And it's REO Speedwagon.
Maybe there's a juggling set that I'm unaware of. I don't know. But I'm just saying, so apparently, though, in the acrimony that led over him saying, I'm ready, and them saying, you're not, he and Kevin Cronin reached a point of irreconcilable differences. That's what they were saying. And then Kevin Cronin himself had an emergency surgical procedure, missed a few shows. And his statement said, while I was in the hospital, hooked up to machines, gave me a chance to think about how I want to spend the rest of my life. And I want to be with the right people that lift me up and that I lift up. And so all this to say, we're pulling the plug on the band as of January 1st. And I'm just reading that going, it's better if you guys just say, we're done on you don't have to say why. Just say you're done and let everyone figure it out. I don't know. It sounded weird. It was really strange to me. But
like a last ditch farewell tour attempt of like, you better get those tickets because this really is the end kind of thing.
They need to work harder if that's the case, because they need to follow that statement up every single day with another statement saying the same thing. I haven't seen anything since. I just think it's you know what it is. It's probably one of those things where this thing probably should have wound down a long time ago, and it just took a bunch of weird situations for them to finally all admit that. I don't know. I can't say. I mean, I had a different experience in a band that was not ever really a great place to be, and not where, you know, it was, when it was good, it was great. And when it was bad, it was awful. And there wasn't a whole lot of in the middle. It was usually one or the other. I haven't missed it. I don't look around and think, I wish we had done this. I accept what it was. And I've just had a great, now in my, you know, I'm in my 11th year away from it. It's been the best decade of my life. I mean, and I'm not saying that because for me, I'm not concerned with, I'm just focused on me and what I need to be doing and moving forward to things that I'm excited about. And I do look at a lot of musicians who've been in bands for a really long time, and I want to look at them and go, it's not that bad out here. You know, the Sopranos scene. last season, or maybe it's the second to last, but when Adrienne gets whacked, right? One of the worst episodes in TV history to watch because it's just so gut wrenching.
Spoiler
There's
alert.
that moment where Christopher is about to go with his fiance Adrienne to the FBI. They're going to go into witness protection. And he's thinking about life outside the mob. And he sees a family at a gas station that barely has enough to get by. And he's just watching this young couple with their 2 babies, and they're dirty and they're eating candy bars and they're begging for money. And they just show his face. And he's like, oh my God, I can't leave. I can't leave. And I remember seeing that and going, that's how everybody in every band I know feels.
Yeah.
Like, it's like there's other stuff to do and there's other people who want to play with you. And I don't know, it's overgeneralizing, but all this to say, I got a feeling that this is probably the best thing for REO Speedwagon.
I went through something very similar when I quit radio in 2015, you know, like where I was like, how am I going to do this? What am I going to be? What's my life going to be like? If I'm not doing this, if I don't have this as my goal, you know, because I spent 20 years working towards this as a goal. And then I'm like, okay, goal achieved, no longer satisfied by it. Do I just leave?
Yeah.
Without a new goal? And that's what I did. And lo and behold, everything was fine.
Yeah. I mean, you know, my wife and I talk with our kids a lot, and we're like, it's totally fine to be scared to death. What's not totally fine is to be inactive because of it.
Yeah.
Like,
paralysis.
But being afraid, that's part of life. You got to do. Challenges are scary, but just do it. Figure it out as you go. Cause all of us got somewhere great by doing that. None of us got somewhere good because we were afraid. We got somewhere great because we were fearless usually. So why are you afraid to be fearless now? Doesn't really make sense to me.
Now, again, my conspiracy theory hat is on, and I'm wondering if Kevin was out with the fill-in guy and thinking, fill-in guy costs a lot less than original guy.
I said that the other day on the air. I go, one email from a promoter going, you know, you can still play the same set list. We just can't call it REO Speedwagon. And he was like, hey, good point.
But then that's when I wondered if maybe the irreconcilable differences were over whether or not they both owned the trademark and one could.
Who knows? It's always something ridiculous like that. Yeah. The more you can involve lawyers and managers at the beginning of your career, the less problems you'll have later. But nobody thinks that way when you're 21. You just go.
The lawyer back then either.
That's right. Well, you don't think you do.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's like they say, if you think education's expensive, try not educating people. Then you got some costs. And
the worst is that in the experiences of people I've known, there's always another voice in the room going, "Don't listen to the lawyer." You know, that's just going to hold you back if you do that. You know, it's just going to cost you a bunch of money right now, and then we're going to have trouble, you know, buying you that new equipment you need, and that's the person you got to look out for most, and you don't realize it.
Yep.
Much later, and it's too late.
Not Queen Elizabeth. It was Margaret Thatcher, of all people, who said one quote I think about all the time. I've thought about it for 30 years. She said, you have to learn from other people's mistakes because you don't have time to make them all yourself. I was like, hey, Maggie. First time I've ever agreed with you, sister.
Yeah.
But that's a good one.
That is. Oh, the music industry in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I saw a meme today from a local band called Hatriot, and one of the kids posted it, and it was like, hey, how do you know everybody? And the answer is like, oh, because we went to, and where you would normally have a college, trying to do this music industry thing together.
Yeah.
Because that's true.
That's it.
We all know each other in some way, shape, or form. Every time a new crew would come through the Fillmore or the Warfield or wherever I was working, it would be like, you look kind of familiar. I'm sure we've worked together. And then you play the name game and you're like, yep, there it is.
That's it. Yeah, of course.
It's crazy. And I think this is the year, right? Because Aerosmith did it first. Now Jane's Addiction, REO Speedwagon. Who do you think is going to be next to fall in the band Deadpool?
You know, Whitesnake slipped under the radar last year. They canceled. David was sick, and you've never heard another word since.
Well, he's popped up and been like, still not feeling well.
Right. I haven't heard much from him lately. But I'm saying that was one.
Yeah. Okay.
I was just saying, yeah, Scorpions are 60 next year. Scorpions
Mhm.
founded in 1965, which is just phenomenal. But they've already got dates booked. I don't know. I haven't thought about it. I am
And
curious
they've
to
got a guitar
see.
player they had to cancel dates for because he fell and broke his arm and his leg.
Oof, did not
Yeah,
hear that.
Matthias Yabs is sitting out. They had to
I
cancel.
saw I saw something the other day. Apparently, there's a festival. I guess it's like next week at the end of September that the Foo Fighters are still on board for. So they got a gig to play, and then that's, I think, the end of anything posted. That'll be interesting. I would hope for all of their sakes that they have a good long break coming up, but we'll see.
I thought they were just getting started.
I If there's a reason to pull the plug, I think Dave just got there.
Yeah. I mean, they sold out Concord Pavilion like that. It was crazy.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
I know that Live Nation was, pulling out every stop they could find to make sure that the Foo Fighters were their BFFs at that show. So that just
Yeah.
says that there's something in the works that they're
Mhm.
trying to do on an international or a national basis with Live Nation, but I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? I don't know. I haven't really thought about who might be the next. I do know this: the next 5 years, there's going to be a ton.
Mhm.
Because Billy Gibbons still plays great and he's still in great shape, but he's going to be 80 in a few years, and you just start going down the list. I mean, I remember 10 years ago thinking these guys are all in their late 60s, and well, now they're all in their late 70s, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's a hard gig, man. Those P basses and Les Pauls, they're heavy.
My money's on Kansas right now because
Oh, that
they
makes
have been
sense.
doing the 50th anniversary tour for a couple of years now. They've come
Yeah.
through here 2 or 3 times,
Yep.
and they just had, I believe, the last original member was the drummer, and he had, like, a stroke or a heart attack or something, and then the band was going on without him, and somebody else who'd been in the band for a very long time just dropped out with another injury, and it's like,
Yeah.
how long
Yeah.
can you keep it going?
It's tough, man.
But then we
It's
always look
tough.
at Foreigner, right? And it's like, well, maybe
Or
you just
or
maybe
Leonard Skinner.
follow it, and if the jacket fits.
These bands, they're all starfish. They just grow new legs. I talked to Johnny Van Zant last week on our show in Minneapolis, and Skinner was playing in town. They had a great crowd. I give Skinner huge credit because they've never pretended to be anything other than what they are, which is we're paying homage and giving respect to the music that our family and friends made, and we're not saying we are them, but we are the next best thing, and they've never lost sight of that. And especially in the last couple of years, they still had Gary Rossington, but once he was gone, but they don't. There's just no bullshit in anything they do, so that works for me. When
Yeah.
bands present themselves as this is the band now, and it's one original guy, it's like, okay, I mean, yeah, legally, sure, but you know,
Well, they're doing the same thing Foreigner was doing, right? Because Foreigner kept saying, "Oh yeah, Mick Jones is sitting out just for a little bit, but he'll be back," and it was like
yeah,
was the last remaining member. And then he really wasn't there for the last, like, I don't know, 3 years or more.
yeah.
And
Well, yeah,
right?
Gary was having a
Newsville.
lot of health problems, but
Yeah.
once he died, it's like, okay, there's nothing to say other than this is just. But even Gary would say, this isn't Leonard Skinner. This is just what Leonard Skinner has become, and he made no bones about it.
Well, it's not like they changed the name though, right? I mean,
Right? Yeah,
Skinner and Foreigner, they're both, like I said, they're Johnny Bravoing it. If the jacket fits, they're out
yeah, yeah. Hey, man, people love that. If you're giving something what they want, at the end of the day, if that's the worst someone can say about you, which is we went out and played music that people love, you're doing okay.
I think where we're gonna run into trouble is, I think that we have finally started to really exhaust people's patience post-pandemic for concert tickets, and they're canceling festivals left and right, it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And there's kind of a panic for these big tours that people expected to sell tickets at hundreds of dollars each that are not selling well. When
Well, it
book,
just the glut, it's feast or famine, and so after the famine, what do? We all get gluttonous. I mean, just every time you look at anything going on, look to see what Jack White's doing if you want to see the smart play.
okay.
Because he's smart. And
Yeah.
what's Jack White doing? He just put out arguably his greatest album ever, and he's out playing clubs with a stripped down band of badass players, and they announce the shows the week of. And if you're in his fan club, you can get a ticket, and if you're not, good luck. And they just show up and they kick it. They just kill it for 2 hours, and then they're just planting all the seeds. And I'm sure next year they will play some big festivals and they will play bigger rooms. But he is confident enough to know that this doesn't damage my legacy or anything to go play clubs. It actually reminds everyone of how badass I am.
Yeah.
You know, the Black Keys, what did they do? They booked a giant arena tour, had to pull the whole thing off the books because nobody wanted to go see them in an arena right now. They misread the system. And, you know, like you said, festivals are going belly up. Tours are getting scaled back and canceled. And what's Jack White doing? Look at his socials. He's in a van that he's driving from city to city.
Is he driving?
Yeah. Follow him on Instagram. He's just like every day he posts, he's in the driver's seat, someone else there, and they're just listening to MC5 or. Those weird, and I can't see. So I'm just like, well, I can't make sense of what's happening. I lifted my sunglasses and got blinded by the outside dark, cloudy skies.
Sorry. I guess for people watching that don't know, Steve had an eye procedure.
My eye
were dilated.
I had a little procedure on my eyes today, cool. So I'm not trying to be cool at all. My eyes are just my pupils are the size of small appetizer plates right now, so it's really difficult if I don't have these sunglasses on.
Well, so you were saying Jack White traveling around the country, driving his own van, jamming MC5s.
Yeah, he's like just listening to whatever music, and there's just little posts here and there, and they pull into a Buc-ee's and take pictures. I mean, he's just a kid in a van again. He's just like, and he's thrilled. And I know Jack, and I know his drummer Patrick Keeler is a really good friend of mine. Patrick was in the Raconteurs and played with the Afghan Wigs for years, and now he's back out with Jack. And they're just having a blast. He said he goes, we all feel like we're kids. Hop in the van, drive 6 hours or 4 hours, and just set up and just cook it in a club for a few hours. It's life. And what Jack has been doing for years is like comedians. You know, he takes your cell phone. You can't have it.
Nice. Yeah.
And he did that. He does that in sheds and in arenas. I mean, when he goes out and plays big halls, they confiscate your cell phone. And I saw when the Raconteurs did a handful of gigs a few years ago, I saw them in Nashville at the Ryman. They took everyone's cell phone, and I kid you not, it was the best concert I've been to in years, just for that very reason, because everybody was present, and you know the anticipation between the opening act and the Raconteurs. People weren't on Twitter, they weren't taking selfies, they weren't sending posts. They were like, "Oh my, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go!" And when they walked out, it was like the roof blew off the joint.
Yeah, I try very hard to, like, first thing I do is I dim my phone. Next thing I do is I hold it in front of me so that it's not blocking another person, you know, and I try to be responsible with it. And then if I need to get a song or two, I'll get a song or two, and then that's it. I tap out and I'm enjoying the show, because I can only do so much, because, you know, the social media thing, we all have to do it now.
Of course.
But I can only do so much and still, you know, maintain. I went to see Y&T, and I love Y&T, and I love everybody that goes to see Y&T, but everybody just wants to talk to me while I'm at the show. So I went in behind like a pillar next to the merch table, and nobody was there. And I just was like, yay. Oh shit, I lost you again. Oh, you're back. I don't know what's happening now.
All right, I'm here.